What's up, everybody? I'm Will Charlton. Welcome to another edition of Noteworthy in the NCAA, a weekly podcast here on the ETB network, talking about all the latest happenings across the landscape of college sports. Make sure to follow us across all social media platforms at ETB Network. That's TikTok, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever it may be. And then also follow Forever Power 5, the podcast that I'm featured on with Nick DiMartino and Zambando at FP5ETB. Again, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And you can follow myself on Twitter at Will Charlton H1 or 13 and Instagram at Will Charlton TV. And you can watch all our Empty the Bench shows on youtube.com/ETB network. So let's get into it. The college football playoff first round has concluded. It was a very interesting first round of games. Started off on Friday night with a very fascinating matchup between Alabama and Oklahoma. The Sooners looked fantastic coming out the gates. They went up 17-zip in the game, but then Alabama storms back. They tie the game with a pick six right before halftime, goes in 17-17, and then the Crimson Tide get it done 34-24. So after it was 17-zip, Alabama outscored Oklahoma 34-7. I picked Alabama to win that game, so it was a good start, as did all of us on Forever Power 5. So not too shocking that we all got that right. I think Alabama just came in and, it looked a little uncertain for a bit, especially when Oklahoma went up 17-0. It's kind of in a spot where you're thinking, oh, man, I mean, Alabama just had this horrible performance in the SEC championship game. They still just don't really look that good. And then all of a sudden they just come in, they score that first touchdown, which they needed real bad. I mean, it was on a fourth down, too. That first touchdown was on a fourth down. So in a world where they don't score that touchdown, Oklahoma gets the stop there. The ball game might have been exponentially different had Alabama not converted that. But they did. They did. And the world we live in is a world where Alabama converted that 4th and 2 and then had to kick a field goal after the Oklahoma punter literally just dropped the ball. That was one of the weirdest plays of the game, when the Oklahoma punter literally just dropped the ball as he was trying to punt it away. I could not believe that. I mean, that was kind of stunning seeing that guy drop the ball. And I cannot believe that happened. But that set up Alabama for a field goal, which was a good stop by the Oklahoma defense. And then Alabama had that pick six towards the end of the half, where I'm sure all of us can agree we have no idea where John Mateer was trying to throw that football. I mean, John Mateer it was a great bait out coverage by Alabama there. I can't remember who it was who had the pick six, but it was great bait out coverage, and John Mateer just completely almost threw the ball to the guy. I mean, there must have been a huge miscommunication between John Mateer and his receiver there, but I don't know. So regardless of that, pick six was, I think, the biggest play of the game, because not only did it tie the game, that gave Alabama every single ounce of momentum, and then they never trailed the rest of the way. Because Alabama then went up 24-17 after halftime. They kicked the field goal, go up 27-14 or 24-14, 24-17, and then no, I got it wrong again. 27-17. There we go. 27-17. Jeez, I got to remember how math works sometimes. So yeah, 27-17. Then Oklahoma scored the touchdown to cut it to 3, and then Alabama scored that game-winning touchdown, essentially, which put it away 34-24. Sealing the deal, and now Alabama gets Indiana in the Rose Bowl on New Year's Day. That's going to be a fun one. Switching over to the Saturday games, A&M and Miami was wild. I mean, having all the special teams mishaps that happened in that game, and then seeing Miami score that touchdown to go up 10-3 late in the fourth quarter, I just cannot believe that game was that low scoring. I mean, with how incredible A&M's offense has been this whole year, seeing them only put up 3 points at home was mind-boggling. I mean, that offense has been so firepower this whole season. Marcel Reed has been playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the country. Obviously not against Texas, and obviously A&M still didn't get that, didn't shake off that Texas loss. But just seeing that offense stall out over and over. And huge credit to Mario Cristobal on the Miami defense. Huge credit to Miami for coming in and playing that game the best they did. I just could not believe that Texas A&M got put in that situation where that offense looked lost. I got to pull up the stats of this game here because seeing Marcel Reed's stat line is just kind of mind-boggling in this game. I mean, let's see. Texas A&M. Marcel Reed was 25 of 39, 237, and 2 interceptions. Like, no touchdowns, obviously. And then the Miami defense shut down the run game. I mean, Marcel Reed was the leading rusher on 15 carries for 27 yards. Ruben Owens only held to 3 yards per carry. Same with E.J. Smith, only 3.5. Le'Veon Moss, 2.1. They got completely shut down on both sides of the ball. I mean, it was kind of nuts to see this high-powered Texas A&M offense that has been scoring at will this whole season get shut down by Miami. And again, just a great game by the Miami defense. Look, the Miami defense has been very solid. I just didn't expect them to come in and play this well against this high-powered A&M team. If you watched our last episode of Forever Power 5, I talked about it. I was just saying, like, I just didn't see a way in which the Miami defense will be able to do that to the Texas A&M offense, and sure enough, that's what happened. So it was kind of just crazy how low scoring this game was, how many mistakes there were, and obviously the second interception from Marcel Reed came on that on a 3rd and goal with 20 seconds left, I believe it was. That was Texas A&M's like best chance to score a touchdown the whole game, and Marcel Reed threw that interception in the back of the end zone to have Miami seal the deal. And it was, I could not believe, like, watching that, like, seeing that game unfold the way it did. I didn't get to watch all of it, but just seeing the way it unfolded was just kind of nuts, especially down the stretch. Like, I'm actually genuinely shocked because I thought Texas A&M was going to really kind of make this, kind of control this game. I picked them to cover, and I thought they were just going to bounce back really nicely. I mean, they hadn't lost a game at home this year, but they almost lost that one to South Carolina. Had to come back and win that game by 1 earlier on in the season. But just kind of a mind-boggling game for both these teams. And huge credit again to Miami. I mean, Carson Beck didn't play well at all. He only had like 100 passing yards, but he threw the shovel pass touchdown, which won the game for Miami. That was Malachi Toney. And I'll tell you what, Malachi Toney is going to be a name to watch out for in the next few years in college football. In fact, he's only a true freshman. That kid's special. That kid's real good. He's going to be a real good player for Miami in the coming years. And Malachi Toney, like, that was pretty much the only thing he really did in the game. He only had 5 receptions for 22 yards, and obviously that touchdown. But guess what? That's all that mattered. I mean, Miami's offense didn't do anything, really. I mean, Mark Fletcher Jr. had a phenomenal rushing game, 17 carries for 172 yards. He was dynamic on the ground. Texas A&M could not stop him. And A&M's defense, like, has been pretty – what's the word? They haven't been the hardest defense to play against this year. Like, teams have scored on them, obviously, but they've just been a team that can outscore. Like, that's how they've won games. Not really like the common SEC team this year that's at the top. They've been a more high-powered offense type of team rather than a high-powered defense, as like the Georgias and the Alabamas and the Oklahomas and Texases were this year. But A&M's kind of a different version of what the SEC kind of showed this year. They're more similar to Tennessee in the fact that those offenses like to kind of outscore their opponents rather than having their defense try to win the games. But that being said, just a great win for Miami. Very impressive. Obviously, they just showed they deserve to be in the field. Now, I'm sure Notre Dame probably would have won this game as well. But I still agree that Miami, if it comes down to Notre Dame and Miami, it has to go to the head-to-head winner. So I agree with that. Even though Alabama won, I'm still a little confused how they didn't get punished for that 21-point loss in the SEC championship game, but that's neither here nor there. And then let's move on to Tulane Ole Miss. Not shocking how this game went down. Ole Miss won 41-10. Just very similar to how they beat Tulane early in the year, 45-10. They just they didn't beat them by as much this time, but Tulane only scored the same amount of points as they did in the first matchup. Trinidad Chambliss really didn't have to do much, but he had a very efficient day, 23 of 29, 282 passing yards and a touchdown. Kwan Lacey led the way for Ole Miss on the ground, 15 carries for 87 yards and a tud. And then Deuce Alexander had a nice game, 7 receptions for 87 yards. And, I mean, Ole Miss pretty much put this game out of reach right away. I mean, it was 17-3 going into halftime, 14-zip in the first quarter. I figured that Ole Miss was going to come playing pissed off in this game because they lost their coach. I mean, they lost their coach. Their guys feel like they got betrayed by their coach. And frankly, they kind of did. So definitely not surprised that Ole Miss won this game by how they did. I mean, I get that Tulane was one of the 5 conference champions that had to make it, but let's be honest here, they're nowhere near one of the top 12 teams in the country. And I know I've kind of beat a dead horse with that, but it's just, yeah, it's not shocking at all that Ole Miss beat them the way they did. Retzlaff didn't really have he did all he could do for Tulane, 20 of 35, 306 passing yards, and a touchdown, 1 interception. Very good game for Shaz Preston for Tulane as well, 5 receptions for 125 yards. The only touchdown was literally in garbage time too. Ole Miss was up 41-3, and then Tulane scored their only touchdown in the game in the fourth quarter. So just not shocking how that game went at all. Ole Miss now gets Georgia. That'll be a rematch of a game where Ole Miss lost to Georgia in Athens, 43-35. That was actually a really fun game because Ole Miss was winning. Ole Miss was winning at one point in that game too. So I expect that game in the Sugar Bowl to be a really, really, really fun one. I think that's going to be a game that you're going to want to keep your eye on for sure because it's tough to beat a team twice. It's real tough to beat a team twice. And Ole Miss gave Georgia a hell of a ball game in Athens earlier this year. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if Ole Miss keeps it really close or even pulls off that upset. I know Georgia's probably going to be like a touchdown favorite, I'd assume, but I haven't seen the lines yet. But I would not be shocked if I'm going to pick Ole Miss to cover in that game for sure because I think that Ole Miss is I think they're still just kind of playing with a chip on their shoulder right now with, losing their coach and their guys kind of banding together as a whole unit, and Trinidad Chambliss still being the guy he is. I mean, it's not like they lost any players. They didn't lose any players. They only lost their coach. And trust me, I know that could mean a lot. That could mean a lot. They could totally get steamrolled against Georgia. They could. They totally could because obviously you got Kirby Smart on the other sideline. But Georgia's been a weird team this year. They've been a real weird team this year. So if the first matchup's anything like this matchup's anything like the first one, it should be a damn good football game on New Year's Day. So Ole Miss is on to play Georgia, and I didn't mention this. Miami's on to play Ohio State now, so that's going to be an interesting game too. I don't think the Buckeyes will have too many troubles with them, but that should be a fun one as well. And lastly, we will get to James Madison in Oregon, which was the nightcap of the first round on Saturday. James Madison, I know that the game was 34-6 at halftime, but hats off to James Madison for making it respectable at the end. It was 51-34. The final score was. James Madison, funny enough, they actually outscored Oregon pretty substantially in the second half. They outscored them 28-17 in the second half. So hey, I'll tell you what, for a team that really had no business being in the playoff, good for them. I mean, like everyone was saying like, oh, these group of five teams don't deserve to be in. Like, look, I tend to agree. But for a team that like probably wasn't supposed to be there, good on them for like never giving up. Because when you're down 34-6, that could be like, all right, well, the game's over. We can just pack it in and just wave the white flag and just give up. But no, James Madison banded together and outscored Oregon 28-17 in the second half. Good for them. I mean, that's pretty cool. Good for them. Obviously, I mean, this game was never really close. Like it was. James Madison did have a field goal to cut it to a 3-point game on their first drive. So it was only 6-3, but then Oregon just kind of steamrolled. I mean, they scored 4 straight touchdowns and went up 34-3, and then James Madison had the field goal right before halftime there. But I will say, hats off to James Madison. I mean, they had for a team that's only been in FBS school for, I want to say, 4 years now, to see them already have this much success in the Sun Belt. I mean, obviously Kurt Signetti was their coach, and now Bob Chesney, their current coach, is off to UCLA. They've turned 2 coaches there into Big Ten coaches now. So James Madison is just kind of a real solid program. I mean, that made their first ever playoff appearance. And I'll tell you what, hats off to Alonzo Barnett, man. I mean, Alonzo Barnett, James Madison's quarterback, obviously the stat line doesn't look fantastic. He was 23 or 48, but he also threw for a couple scores and threw 273 yards on the road against an Oregon defense, which has been pretty solid this whole year. And Dante Moore didn't have his best game either. He threw 2 interceptions, but had 4 touchdowns and over 300 yards passing. But Dante Moore, very good through the air, except the 2 interceptions. It didn't really seem like it mattered all that much, though. But, man, what a game from Malik Benson of Oregon. 5 receptions, 119 and 2 tuds. Great game from Malik Benson of Oregon. So the Ducks, again, it's not a surprising result. Oregon was, I believe, a 21-point favorite in this game. And I did take the Ducks to cover, so they did not cover here. And funny enough that James Madison touchdown, that final 4th down, was actually what allowed them to cover. So they had a backdoor of the century, if you will. Barnett rushing in on a fourth and goal from the 1-yard line, and that allowed James Madison to cover the spread. So Oregon is now going to face off with Texas Tech, which should be the matchup of the second round, that 4-5 matchup. That'll be phenomenal. I believe that's the Orange Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. And if I'm also not mistaken, I think that's the first. No, that's the first game on New Year's Day. So yeah, it's the first game on New Year's Day. So the New Year's Day games are Oregon, Texas Tech, Alabama, Indiana, and Georgia, Ole Miss. So that means Miami, Ohio State is the game that's going to be on New Year's Eve. So it should be 4 fun matchups coming up. Definitely looking forward to seeing the college football playoff quarterfinals, and they should be. I think we are down to the best 8 teams now. It's kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to say for sure, obviously, but just based off how this round went, it does seem like Miami deserves to be right up there. So this is who looks like are the best 8 teams in the country. And after this, it'll seem like who's the best 4. So it should be a very fun round of games coming up. I expect all of them to be real solid games. I mean, I think the only one that probably doesn't have a great shot of being a real good game is Ohio State, Miami, because I don't think the Buckeyes will have any troubles with the Hurricanes at all. But who knows? I mean, Miami's coming off a real tough road win, so I guess you'll never know. So we'll talk about that next week's show more. We'll kind of break down the matchup in next week's show. We're not going to really preview them yet because they're not this week. So we'll break down the matchups in next week's show, and we'll go from there. But let's move on to the FCS. The FCS level, the national championship is set. It's going to be Montana State versus Illinois State. And we'll start with the Bobcats. Montana State played arch rival Montana for the first time ever in the postseason. And to put this in perspective, these 2 teams have met 124 times before Saturday. Never once did they play each other in the playoffs. Never once. People were saying that this is the biggest sporting event that's ever happened in the state of Montana's history. And I was able to be a part of it. I'm very fortunate. And it was amazing to be at that game. Just an incredible atmosphere. Bobcat Stadium was rocking, 25,000 just completely packed in that stadium. Not a single seat available. Just an absolutely incredible scene. It was a phenomenal game too. So Montana State went up 13-3. 20-3. Sorry, they went up 20-3. And then Montana cut it to 20-16 at halftime. Montana then took the lead in the third quarter, 23-20. And the stadium was pretty shocked because that had been, what would it be? That had been 20 straight points scored by Montana without an answer from the Bobcats. And then once the Grizz went up by 23-20, the Bobcats outscored them 28-0. 28-0. So they took the lead going into the fourth quarter, 27-23, and then scored 3 more touchdowns in the fourth quarter. That place was raucous. There was a field storming afterwards. Just an unbelievable scene in Bozeman, Montana. The Bobcats are rolling right now. They've won 13 games in a row. They lost the first 2 to the year, the Oregon and South Dakota State. But the Bobcats are rolling right now. They were ranked as the second. This was 2 versus 3 in the FCS, and just a phenomenal atmosphere. So it was a very special type of game to be at because you could just feel the magnitude of it. I mean, this state of Montana loves their Grizz and their Cats. They love it out here. They love it, and to see just everyone kind of band around both their sides and get so excited for this game was really cool. So hats off to Montana State for just an unreal performance in that game. The national championship for the FCS will be on January 5th. So we'll kind of talk about that next week's show as well. And we will go from there. But Illinois State, this Redbirds team is an unreal story. So I know we talked about them a little bit in last week's show as well, but they lost their final game of the regular season to Southern Illinois, who didn't even make the FCS playoffs, 37-7 at home. That game was in Normal, Illinois. Illinois State came into this playoff in like the worst possible fashion you could. Like seriously, they came into this playoff on like the worst foot possible. They have won 4 true road games in these playoffs, and they're the first ever FCS team to do that. This Illinois State team, they finished 3rd in the Missouri Valley this season. They finished 3rd behind North Dakota State and South Dakota. And it is just unreal, this run that this team has been on. I mean, Illinois State came into this playoff as an 8-4 team. Barely squeaked in. I mean, not barely. They were technically the 17 seed, if you will, in a 24-team field. So it wasn't like they snuck in, I guess. But had they won that game against Southern Illinois, they probably would have been somewhere between 12 and 15, I'd imagine. But instead, they came in as an unranked team. And they beat Southeast Louisiana on the road 21-3. So kind of set a precedent that, hey, these guys might be decent. Then they go on the road to beat North Dakota State. North Dakota State was the hands-on favorite to win the FCS this year. Undefeated, they kind of steamrolled past all their opponents this year. And their quarterback throws 5 interceptions in the game, and they still win. Illinois State's quarterback threw 5 interceptions in that game against North Dakota State, and they still won the game. 29-28, they had a 2-point conversion after they scored the touchdown, which would have tied it had they gone for the PAT. They got that 2-point conversion. Then they followed that up with a pretty dominant performance against UC Davis on the road, 42-31. And this past weekend, they went into Villanova and won 30-14. This Redbirds team is on a heater right now. And I'll tell you what, like Montana State's going to be a pretty big favorite in this championship game, but the Redbirds mean business. I mean, they're not going to be able to beat Montana State if they throw 5 interceptions again. I'll tell you that much. They do probably have to play very perfect to beat Montana State because the Bobcats just are firing on all cylinders right now. But I'll tell you what, this Illinois State team's been a really fun story. They've been a lot of fun to keep track of. So that game is on January 5th, that national championship game, Illinois State and Montana State. And now, before we head off for this show, let's talk about the new men's basketball AP poll. Came out today, as it always does on Mondays. I'll get it up here, and I'll kind of talk about the main things. One thing that I do remember off the top of my head is that Texas Tech made a pretty big jump after beating Duke this past weekend. Texas Tech, that was a great win for the Red Raiders. I mean, they kind of needed like a real signature win since they kind of missed out on opportunities this year so far. Like they missed out on beating Arkansas. They missed out on a road win at Illinois. They beat LSU, but LSU is not really anything. But yeah, no, they beat Duke 82-81. I mean, they were down 10 points at halftime and outscored Duke by 11 in the second half. And I'll tell you what, Lawan Watts was phenomenal in that game. 20 points to lead the Red Raiders. JT Toppin did his thing, 19 and 20. Also, how about Christian Anderson? 27 points and 5 assists. Great game for Christian Anderson. Texas Tech was just kind of firing all cylinders in this game, and they proved it well. I mean, it was a neutral court game, but still just the Red Raiders got a huge win there. It handed Duke its first loss of the season, so Duke slid down to 6 after being 3 last week. Iowa State and UConn moved up a spot. The top 2 stayed the same with Arizona and Michigan, but Iowa State's now 3, UConn 4. Purdue jumped up after a very convincing win in Indianapolis against Auburn. They're now at 5. Vanderbilt, the Commodores are still I'm pretty sure they're still undefeated. Yeah, they sure are. Vanderbilt is still unbeaten and 12-0 overall. They got the best record in the SEC. The SEC teams have not played any conference games yet, but Vanderbilt is the only undefeated team currently in SEC. They are now number 11. Nebraska keeps on rising up. They're up to 13. Kansas is kind of making a little jump up, 17 now. I don't really get how they ranked Tennessee ahead of Illinois, even though Illinois kind of took it to them. Illinois is 20, Tennessee's 19. I'm not really too sure how you can rank Tennessee above Illinois after Illinois literally won that game head-to-head. I don't really get how that works, but the AP poll is kind of a joke between college football and college basketball. I seriously don't get how Tennessee is only 1 spot ahead of Illinois. Like, Illinois beat Texas Tech in Champaign, and Texas Tech is now 15, Illinois 20. Yeah, I don't really get how that works. That Tennessee's ranked ahead of Illinois. Texas Tech is one thing, but Illinois being ranked behind Tennessee is kind of a joke, in my opinion. Florida's 22. Their 4 losses are only to 4 really good teams. Iowa cracks the top 25 in the first year. Under the old Drake head coach, Ben McCollum under Ben McCollum. First time they've seen the rankings this year. Georgia 11-1, they're at 23, and yeah, that's pretty much the thick of the new AP poll. You can find it anywhere you want to, obviously, but before we head off, let's see if there's any new net ranking updates for college basketball. Michigan 1, Arizona 2, Duke 3, Iowa State 4, Gonzaga 5, Vanderbilt 6, Purdue 7, UConn 8, BYU 9, Michigan State 10, Iowa 11, Nebraska 12, Illinois 13, Houston 14, Louisville 15, Kansas 16, Utah State 17, interesting, Alabama 18, North Carolina 19, Georgia 20, Florida 21, Kentucky 22, Texas Tech 23, St. Mary's 24, St. Louis, who's 11-1, 25. So that's the top 25 in the current men's basketball net rankings. And then KenPom is probably pretty similar, I'd imagine. Michigan 1, Arizona 2, Iowa State 3. So the same top 3 right there as the AP poll. Gonzaga 4, Purdue 5, Duke 6. UConn 7, Vanderbilt 8, Houston 9, BYU 10, Florida 11, even with 4 losses because they still got a very positive net rating. Illinois 12, Michigan State 13, Louisville 14, Tennessee 15, Kansas 16, Alabama 17, Kentucky 18, Iowa 19, St. John's 20, Nebraska 21. I'm pretty shocked they're that low with an undefeated record. Interesting. Yeah, they got a really low net rating for an undefeated team right now, especially who has a road win at Illinois. But yeah, I mean, if you want to look at the net ratings yourself, or the KenPom rankings yourself, they're real easy to find as well. But that's going to do it for our show here today. Thank you for tuning in to Noteworthy in the NCAA. Once again, I'm Will Charlton, and we'll see you back here next Monday.